Welcome to this explainer. Right off the bat, we're going to completely reframe how you look at silence. You know that person in the room who barely says a word? You kind of wonder what's actually going on in their head, right? Well, society usually tells us that being loud means you're confident, but today we're using direct psychological insights from our source material to decode the hidden psychology of people who just don't talk too much. Okay, let's dive into this. Do you fear awkward silence? Really take a second and be completely honest with yourself here. When a conversation suddenly stalls out, do you feel this overwhelming, almost panicked urge to fill the void with words? Honestly, a lot of us do. We're socially conditioned to view silence as a negative, like a flaw in the interaction that desperately needs to be fixed. But for some folks, silence isn't some scary void waiting to be filled. It's actually a deliberate, super comfortable choice. To really get this, I want you to picture silence like a giant iceberg. What people see, someone simply not talking, or maybe looking aloof and avoiding interaction, that's literally just the tip of the iceberg. But beneath the surface, oh man, there is a massive amount of cognitive work happening. We're talking deep cognitive processing and intense observation. So that silence, it isn't empty at all. It's incredibly full. Section 1. The misunderstood power of silence. Silence is not an absence of thought. It is a hidden psychological strength. Just let that sink in for a second. Our source material points out a really vital truth here. Society often falsely equates talking with intelligence or being engaged. But true psychological strength, it often lies in the restraint of just holding your tongue and letting your mind do the heavy lifting.
Section 2. Processing more than expressing.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that quiet people are far from passive. While silent, they're actually juggling several highly taxing things all at once. They're noticing everything around them. They're absorbing vast amounts of information. They're reading the room, analyzing all those complex social dynamics, and ultimately processing way more than they ever actually show. Their brains are practically working in absolute overdrive to understand and map out their environment.
So here's exactly how a quiet mind operates. Step 1, observe everything. Step 2, process deeply. Step 3, speak only if meaningful. This is exactly how a quiet person learns. They learn by taking the world in first. And that contrasts super sharply with people who talk just to be heard or, people who figure out what they think by speaking it out loud. The quiet mind, it prefers to have the full picture completely constructed internally before adding a single brushstroke to the external conversation.
Section 3. Why they hate small talk. And this brilliantly illustrates meaningless conversation. It's often just surface-level chatter used merely to fill space. Quiet individuals heavily avoid this stuff because they genuinely crave intellectual or emotional depth. Remember that iceberg from earlier? They operate entirely below the surface. They absolutely do not feel the psychological need to fill every single silence with noise. To a deep processor, small talk isn't just boring. It feels, quite frankly, incredibly draining. So, we've got a stark contrast right here. Talking to be heard versus observing to understand. Societal assumptions are always telling us that if someone isn't talking, they aren't engaged. But the psychological reality? It's the exact opposite. Their silence is a highly deliberate choice. They're actively choosing to seek out meaning and really understand their surroundings, instead of just making noise for the sake of making noise. Section 4. Guarding a deep inner world. They reveal less to protect more. This is such a foundational, striking concept from our source material. By speaking less, quiet people are actively guarding their emotional core. It's totally a defense mechanism, but honestly, a highly intelligent one. They're preserving their inner energy and their capacity to think in absolute depth. It basically acts as a psychological shield against this noisy world that constantly demands our attention and vulnerability. Let's contrast the external behavior with the internal reality here. On the outside, someone appears still and quiet, but their internal reality, highly active. They might look withdrawn, but internally, they're thinking in incredible depth. They seem, simply silent, but psychologically, they are being fiercely emotionally protective. That outward perception of aloofness completely masks this incredibly rich, deeply protected inner world detailed in our source.
Section 5. Quiet does not mean weak.
So the crucial point is right here. Psychology explains that quiet behavior is often linked to deep thinking, observation, emotional protection, and a mind that processes far more than it shows. Let this incredibly powerful quote from the source sink in for a second. It's the ultimate proof that silence isn't an absence of strength or capability. It's a deeply active, dynamic psychological process. They understand more than most people realize. This is the stark, bold truth we really need to emphasize today. Because they're constantly observing, processing, and analyzing, rather than just broadcasting their own thoughts, their quiet nature actually gives them a distinct, undeniable cognitive and social advantage. I mean, while everyone else is talking, they're learning. They see what others completely miss.
I'll leave you with this lingering question. How will you look at a quiet person the next time you're in a room together? Hopefully you won't just see someone who isn't talking. You'll actually recognize the deep processing, the intense observation, and the rich inner world they are carefully navigating. I really encourage you to use the insights from this explainer to completely rethink your own relationship with silence. Embrace it, understand it, and absolutely respect the incredible psychological power behind it. Thanks so much for diving into this explainer with me. Keep observing and keep learning.